Live show. I'm Vinny. I'm here with my buddies Colby and Anthony, and today we're on episode 2 of Bourbon and Balls. We're going to drink some bourbon. Today it's Woodford Reserve Double Oaked, which if you haven't had it before, it's fantastic. We have a review on our main page that you're welcome to check out. And then we're going to talk through some of the latest NFL news, give some fantasy updates, and answer any questions that you guys might have in the live chat.
Throw a little Coke in there.
Cute. All right. Well, cheers. Grab a drink with us. Well, let's get this started. Oh, delightful.
Yeah, it's delicious.
So good.
It's good.
So good.
Very Cokey.
Hints of Coca-Cola in that one.
So this episode will be a little news heavy. There's been, for middle of the off season, there's been some pretty exciting non-on-field
It depends on
stuff
who you
that
talk
happened.
to on the excitement side of things.
Our Chiefs fan leads us right into where we'll start, which is earlier this week, Frank Clark got arrested for having an Uzi in a duffel bag in his back seat. And just as we were trying to figure out what we think his suspension is going to be for that, it came out that he also got arrested on gun charges in March as well, where he had a loaded pistol and shotgun in his car. So why don't we start with our Chiefs fan? How you feeling?
I'm honestly, I don't know. I'm not too worried about it. I feel like it's LA. Obviously, they're strict over there, so I just think that's what's stemming from all this. Obviously, I mean, you don't need an Uzi. Nobody needs an Uzi, but I guarantee you half the people in this, not half the people, it's probably being a little crazy, but there's a lot of people that own a lot of shit that they don't need to own as far as AK-47s, 50 caliber sniper rifles and stuff. There's no need for any of that. But
I mean,
if you're in Florida and you got pulled over, they would have probably complimented him on his Uzi and sent him on his way. It's in LA. It's in LA, so that's why it's a big issue.
That's my take on it is, you got to think where you are. I mean, if you're in California, there's a lot of things you can't do that if you live in Florida, you can do.
Yeah, it doesn't excuse him that he's an idiot for having a gun in his car in LA
Texas,
when he knows better.
Florida, stuff like that. I mean, you're an NFL player. You get paid millions and millions of dollars.
And he's one of the highest paid defenders in the league, $100 million player.
Don't do dumb shit.
Yeah.
That's what I say. Don't do dumb shit. If you're getting paid that much money, why do you need to drive with an Uzi in your car? You make enough money where you can give that Uzi to a friend and they can drive it to your house for you. Like, it just makes no sense. Like, you can pay somebody to do it for you.
You pay me $75,000 a year and I'll drive it around.
That's what I'm saying.
For him.
Like, don't do dumb shit. You are one of the highest paid defensive ends. Don't do dumb shit. Driving around in LA with an Uzi is dumb shit.
I agree with both those points. But what are you going to do with it there? The reason that, like, in Florida you could get away with it, in Texas you can get away with it. First of all, there's a tremendous amount of hunting. It's part of the culture. There's a million, like, shooting ranges everywhere. Yeah. So you could make the argument that I was going to use this for a recreational activity. Nobody was ever going to get hurt. What is there in downtown LA where in any situation ever you would need any sort of gun? There's no shooting ranges. There is no shooting ranges in downtown LA.
You never know.
There's none. No way.
It's probably just something he's used to when he gets in the car. He throws it in. It's probably in his car all the time.
It's just so he could show his buddies and act like a baller. It's stupid.
Listen,
it's stupid
you don't
to carry
an
around.
Uzi around all the time for your protection. You might throw
I was in my gym bag. I just left in my gym bag.
You might throw a handgun in your center console, but you're not throwing an Uzi.
But an Uzi though, like, is there's because you can have one that's modified fully automatic. If it's just a semi-automatic Uzi,
we're done.
It's basically just
nonsense.
a pistol.
All right, last question on the topic. What do you think the fallout of this is?
My original thoughts was 4 games reduced to 2. I feel like with the first arrest, it's probably going to be 4 games, and they're going to uphold 4 games, which sucks because we're thin at edge defender.
I mean, I don't remember him ever getting in trouble before. He doesn't have any other.
joke or you?
No, that's serious.
Oh, he's a piece of shit.
I mean, no, but like, has he been arrested before?
It's been a while, but I'll just say he's got domestic violence issues in his past.
You got to look
I'll
at
just
guys.
leave
You
it
have to
at
look
that.
at guys that do dumb shit all the time, and that's when they get the biggest. If he hasn't had something in a while, I mean,
gun charges are they're a serious thing, and there's
especially when you have domestic violence issues in your past.
Does he?
Yeah, like 2014. I think it was college. Still doesn't mean anything. He's still like, you have that on your record. Supposedly before the last year he was in Seattle, he had like a fight with one of his teammates and beat the crap out of him.
I mean, do they use him as an example and give him 6 games?
Could
do
be.
They give him?
I wouldn't be surprised with
it's
6
possible.
games. I think it's going to be.
I think
4.
I agree. With
I think
4.
it's going to be. Yeah, I think it's going to be.
I think it's going to be
games.
4, and I still think they're going to cut it down to 2.
Yeah.
Because when we just heard about the recent one, it was like, Uzi, you're a moron.
Yeah.
And there's no reason for you to be doing that and whatever. But there was no, he wasn't carrying it on his person. And let's be honest here, not to get into like a social conversation, but both times he got caught with a gun were for some really weak, not having a front license plate. I would guarantee there's 1,000 cars in that city without a license plate. And then the other one was a routine traffic stop. 2 pretty soft pullovers for him to get caught with a gun.
It's also going to
if he was being like a piece of shit in the process, if he was like running from the cops, if he had just committed a crime, if he had gotten in a fight and that gun was there, I think it would be looked at much more harshly than 2 really soft arrests.
I mean, do the charges stick though?
It doesn't matter.
From what it sounds like, I don't know if it sounds like the 2 gun charges and the traffic and all that stuff. It sounds pretty weak from what I've read. And if you watch any video, like any conferences with Frank Clark, he's a pretty soft-spoken, chill dude. So he's not being. So I know when the officer's there, he's not being a dick to the officer.
If they stick 4 games, if they don't stick 2 games.
All right. I don't think Goodell cares if they stick or not, but I get your point.
Yeah, he's
in the. It probably does matter more in the challenge and the whatchamacallit.
Yeah.
I mean, but you're going to get the NFLPA involved that's saying they didn't stick and they're going to start. I mean,
if they don't
listen, if the NFL doesn't have to fight with the NFLPA, they won't.
All right,
that's true.
Let's turn the corner here. Our next topic is we're changing the mood here. We're going a lot lighter. So earlier this week, Carl Nassib came out as openly gay, and there's a few different ways to say this. I've seen some people report it as he's the first openly gay player on an active roster. And that one's kind of misleading because Michael Sam in 2014 came out. He was openly gay prior to being drafted. And, a lot of people make the argument that he got screwed because of it, because he was a pretty dominant player in college and he was pretty good
in college
in preseason, and then he never made the active roster. So he never played in a game. He was never even on a roster in a regular season game.
It's just hard to. Talent outweighs a lot of things. I mean, you see some of these guys in the NFL that are the biggest assholes in the world, but they're really good and they make teams.
Yeah.
I don't think they're really looking at being gay.
Maybe. You're talking 7 years ago, though.
True.
When did the Kaepernick stuff start?
That's true.
That was 2015, 2016.
It was it was kind of a weird time then where the NFL was almost taking a backward stand to being PC, and now it's a completely different NFL. So a couple of tidbits. So his jersey shot up to number 1 the second he came out. He's gotten a ridiculous outpouring of support from everyone in the NFL. He made a $100,000 donation to the Trevor Project, which is suicide prevention for young LGBT youth, and then the NFL matched it. So it's been nothing but absolute positive reactions. And so before we get into the Carl Nassib part, then, do you think if Michael Sam came out right now that he would make an NFL roster?
I think if he kept his mouth shut, got drafted, performed the way he did, In 2014, he would be. I don't know if he'd still be on an active roster because it's hard to predict that, but he would have been given a chance on the active roster because he was.
I'm saying if his story wasn't from 2014, if it was from 2021.
Oh, it just happened today.
He's a rookie.
I don't think it hurts his draft stock at all. I think.
But does he make an NFL roster this year?
Yeah, 100%.
I don't know. I still think talent outweighs anything else.
So you think he didn't make an NFL roster, had nothing to do with?
If he was what he was in college,
he wasn't a first round pick. Like, let's be clear about that. He was a seventh round pick.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like we're not talking about some elite talent. He was good.
I mean, he was really good in college. I mean, I think if he played in the NFL the way he played in college, and if he was a top 5 linebacker,
you're cheating the question. You're cheating the question, though.
I think I don't think it would have changed that much. Okay. I think talent outweighs anything else.
I agree with that. Where I do think it's possible his draft position changed because there was a team or two that's like, I just don't want to deal with the press of this. I genuinely believe that the talent would outweigh anything, and he would have made the team if he was going to help them.
Yeah, win. I mean, my argument for him would be. I mean, the preseason he had with the Rams, it was like 5 sacks in the 3 or 4 games he played in limited time, which was
preseason. Though you're playing,
that's when these guys come out and they prove themselves. It's not like the Rams had a world beater defensive line back then. It was like probably Michael Brockers. I don't even know if Aaron Donald. He
wasn't there yet.
So it's not like they had a world beater defensive line back then. To say that he didn't deserve a shot over some of these other guys.
He was also going against 7th round.
His biggest
offensive lineman.
It's still doesn't matter. There's still people that get the shots in the preseason that they flash against these guys and they still get a chance. I do think he would have been given a shot, if not with the Rams, somebody would have brought him in, but it's like he didn't even get a practice squad invite on the other 32 teams.
Where did he go to Canada?
He went to the Canadian Football League, I think. I have no idea if it's a fact or not, but then he got like a tryout with the Cowboys the next offseason and then
nothing.
Just kind of fizzled out after that.
Yeah, I can believe that if everything was equal between him and another player, they might have said like, there's an added layer of just media attention and media and like whatever. Not that it's a negative thing, not that they hold it against him, but just like it's a distraction, right? Like at the end of the day, it adds a little bit of a distraction. So I'm sure the Raiders really appreciate Carl Nassib doing it in June. Because if it happened in October, it would be a little bit of a distraction. And like, I know that's terrible to say. I'm proud of him. I'm happy for him that he did this and he can live his true life right now. But, there's truth to the fact that focus is super important. And if half your media coverage is about your new teammate that came out of the closet or your teammate that just came out of the closet, then you're retracting from the work that you should be doing. So I'm sure they really appreciate that. It was a classy move. Nothing but happy for him. I was curious about the take.
It goes back to the point of what I made earlier: is talent. The guy before anyone knew that he was gay showed out on the field. He's a proven NFL starter. He's a good player.
I agree.
Yeah. But I mean, I don't know. I look at everything like, you know what? Everyone is making these crazy big deals about this, that. It's cool that he did it, but, I think we should be treating everyone the same. Like, I think, yes, he did. He came out as gay, which is, great, but, let's.
Yeah,
the guy's in the NFL because he's talented.
And for perspective here, so we have LGBT friends, family. So we're coming from a place of love and from secondhand, or I was going to say firsthand experience, but that's not fair. But like we're very close with people in this regard, and we don't treat them any differently.
I treat them, but like I said, I have family that I treated how I treated them, and when I found out that they were gay, they were treated the exact same way. To me, there's two people in this world. There's good people and there's assholes.
Yeah, you're not a monster. You're also not a hero. And sometimes like people want to go one extreme or the other. Like you're a person. If you're a good person, you're a good person. If you're a bad person, you're a bad person. Love who you want to love.
The reason why I think it's cool that he did is a couple different reasons. Is it's going to help out if there are people that are still, hiding the fact of they're gay,
100%.
that it gives them the courage to come out in the NFL. So I got a feeling maybe not in the next month or two, but in the next year, we're probably going to see a few more players come out.
You're going to have the snowball effect.
It's not even for them. It's more for the young generation that's like in high school playing football that may be scared to play football because they're gay and they're scared of what the locker room's going to do, what the locker room's going to say. And this might give them the courage to say, you know what, I'm going to own it. Yes, I'm gay, and I'm going to come out, and I'm going to be a starter on varsity, and I'm going to kick your ass.
Yeah, and we'll jump to
I wish everyone lived by the motto is like, who gives a shit what everyone thinks?
Yeah,
you know what?
Exactly.
Who cares? If you're a good player, play.
Yep.
If you're not, then you're going to be, they're going to figure out you're not good.
Yep.
It doesn't matter what you are. I mean,
exactly.
just who gives a shit?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, and I'll say this one last thing, and then we'll move on because we have a few more topics here. But it works both ways too. It's great for maybe the young man who is unsure of himself and doesn't know how people are going to react to it, doesn't know if he'll fit in. And it's also the inverse is also good, right? Like it's good to see somebody who might have made a joke, who might have done a little bit of bullying, thinking it was innocent. It's good for them to see how big of a deal it is too, because then, then they immediately are thinking back to how it was such a positive reception and how like positively impactful it is or was. And so, I think it's really positive from both ends.
I'm actually excited to see how he plays this year. I'm excited to see, like, does he have this weight lifted off his shoulder?
That'd be kind of crazy.
Yeah.
He just blows up.
Like,
he's just
20 sacks this year. Like,
I was a huge fan of him coming out of college. So he was somebody I would have, I wanted the Chiefs to draft, and I hope he has 15 great games and 2 shitty games against Kansas City this year.
Hey, you're also going to find out if friggin' the people on your team are all for it or if they're not all for it.
I'd be shocked.
I'm just saying,
you're
going
to. These people are like our brothers.
For every Richie Incognito, you got 1,000 good dudes in the NFL. I mean, you're going to have a guy or two.
I don't think Richie Incognito is as bad of a person as he came out to be.
We could save that for another thing. I don't think he is either. But for every one dude you're going to have that's against it, you're going to have a million players in their corner that are for it. So I'm not worried about there being any Oakland or Las Vegas now.
Yeah.
All right, so next on tap, it's not a fun topic. We're not going to get into the political aspects in any way, shape, or form. It's not a drinking topic, but COVID-19. So last year, obviously, it was massively impactful to the NFL. There was all sorts of ridiculous protocols and masks and contact tracing and quarantines for anyone who was in any relative contact and no preseason, no training camp. Like the whole thing was just empty stadium. It was the whole thing was just ridiculous. Crazy. This year, the vaccine has hit and the NFL has really leaned into it hard. They're really pushing for players to get vaccinated. There's people on both wild ends of that spectrum on how they feel about it, which is totally fine. Word out of the NFL, and they haven't produced anything tangible, but word out of the NFL is teams that have 85% vaccination rate or higher will have more lenient protocols than teams that are not. So I'm assuming it has to do with stuff like, maybe there won't be contact tracing and like that, those sorts of things, but we won't know until we see it. So for July 2nd. So July 2nd is the opt-out date. Last year, a bunch of people opted out.
I don't think we've seen any this year.
No, none so far. And it's a little different this year. So if you didn't opt out last year, you are not allowed to opt out this year unless since October 1st of 2020, you have been diagnosed with something that makes you a high risk. So you can't just opt out. So like people were throwing on Aaron Rodgers. Like, is he going to opt out just as a way to like stick it to Green Bay? He can't unless a doctor says like all of a sudden you have severe asthma, it won't be allowed. So there aren't a lot of eligible people to even opt out. And also there's the vaccinations and things have gotten a little easier in general. And those players that did opt out, I think half of them are just trying to get healthy.
Yeah.
Right. Like there were so many of them coming off injuries.
I mean, you had the guys coming off injuries. You had the Laurent Duvernay-Tardif, Chiefs guard. He's a doctor in Canada, so he went up there and was in the field. Yeah, and it's going to be annoying using the Chiefs on this one. But Damon Williams, I think his mom or grandma battling cancer, so he opted out so he could spend time with her and not put her at any more risk than she already is. So you're going to have – so there is some cool stuff like that,
of the guys who opted out, who was the biggest? Like
the entire New England defense. Like half their team opted out. They were missing so many players. Yeah, I mean, we were missing 2 or 3 wide receivers, and it sucked, but it wasn't gonna make or break our team. It's really showing our true colors here. There's a moth flying around.
Take care of that.
Yeah. So COVID-19 this year. Do we think anybody's gonna hold out?
I would be shocked
if
people hold out. You got to think, last year they were also getting paid, I think it was like $150,000.
They were getting a loan. They had to pay it back. They weren't even getting paid.
Yeah,
I don't think anybody made the decision on getting.
I don't think you will, because last year at the opt-out time, I mean, COVID was still a huge mystery on what was going on with it, how it affects you, and the seriousness of it, and all that other stuff. And we just 12 months later, so much more about it. So I feel like, I mean, especially the vaccine out there, it does help out and makes everybody feel more comfortable. You've got that extra layer of protection. You're also a young, healthy adult with that extra layer of protection, which does nothing but help you out. So
there's still a lot of players that don't want it, aren't going to get it,
which is fine.
And they're not idiots like
American.
If you don't want to get it, you just keep it to yourself and you move on with life. I mean, at the end of the day, you're working at the end of the day, you're an employee for a private organization. You have the privilege to be an NFL player. I mean, unfortunately, it comes with rules, and I know Cole Beasley doesn't want to get it, which is fine if he doesn't want to get it. I have no issue with him not wanting to get it, but the way he's going about it is completely wrong.
So, just for shits, if we had to make a scale of how people felt about it, right, it would be like, how do you feel about the vaccine on a scale from Cole Beasley to who's the opposite of Cole Beasley? Is there someone in the I can't even think of it.
Travis Kelce now, like all about.
He did flip. Kelce did flip. He is a big advocate now.
Yeah, he was screaming, "Don't get the vaccine." Now he's like screaming at everyone to get the vaccine.
I think it would have to be Tomlin, right? Because Tomlin's like for real about the vaccine. Yeah. I think it'd have to be him. Like on a scale from Cole Beasley to Mike Tomlin, how do you feel about the vaccination?
This is my whole thing. Like who cares if you have it or if you don't have it? If you think the vaccine is going to change your life,
I feel like
the NFL thinks it. But okay. But if you think that the vaccine is going to change your life and it's going to be, and then this person doesn't, I'm like, if you get the vaccine, you're safe, right? That's what they say.
So it doesn't matter. Let's stick to the football side of it. So the other piece of it, let's say you're in the middle, right? Let's say you're halfway between Tomlin and Beasley, and you're like, I could go for it, I could go not. And I think we're kind of in that boat, right? Like we got vaccinated, but we got vaccinated because we're going on a trip, and you need to be vaccinated for it, and we don't care enough not to get vaccinated, so we got it done.
My wife wouldn't leave me alone about it, so I figured happy wife, happy life,
So if you're kind of indifferent, there's a pretty significant advantage to getting vaccinated from an NFL player standpoint, right? No masks, no contact tracing.
You can do whatever you want. You can go on Saturday night before the game and get stripper in your face. Yeah. It's not a big deal.
Live your life. Exactly. Deshaun Watson. No, who was that? It was the Redskins quarterback.
Dwayne
Haskins. Dwayne Haskins.
Yeah.
You might get something else, but you're not going to get COVID.
It's the 21st century. So the biggest one, though, is last year, if you even came in contact with somebody who tested positive, you were quarantined. You were done. Yeah. And you had to get 1 million tests and this and that. And this year, if you're vaccinated, you can be in contact with somebody. I think you have to get a negative test afterwards, but there's no quarantine period. Yeah. That's a huge deal. Last year, we saw Denver start an NFL regular season game without a quarterback.
A practice squad wide receiver.
A practice squad wide receiver as their starting quarterback.
He was my starting quarterback for that weekend. Screwed me pretty good.
We'll just say there's fantasy advice coming up in a little bit, and don't listen to him.
Yeah, I get the incentive. Like if you're indifferent about it, if you're not adamantly against getting the vaccine, then get it. Help your team, help your teammates, help your coaches.
Do you think there's still going to be players that get COVID or
you're still going to see.
And they're going to say you sit out and You know, I'm
Yeah,
going
people
to
will still get
change from. I mean, I know we talk football, but we know sports. I mean, you have CP3. For the Phoenix Suns has missed.
Yeah, the NBA is a little different.
Their games because of he.
But they play
positive.
every night. It's
Yeah.
I'm just saying he's
situation.
like missed a bunch of games, so 2 or 3 games now, and there's video of him running around with his kids. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the NBA is a lot stricter from what I've heard. I don't know their complete protocols, but like the kind of the outline of it is, it doesn't matter if you're vaccinated or not. If you get a positive result
You're
or
out.
anything, you're out until.
Well, and I think that's I'm sure that's how the NFL will handle
From what
that.
I've read, I mean, I don't know 100%. From what I've read, I'm pretty sure if you're vaccinated,
if you get a positive test,
near,
you will 100% not be allowed on an NFL field. You're out of your mind if you.
But what if you get a positive test on a Tuesday after your Sunday game, or on a Monday after your Sunday? You think you make it back for that?
I don't know if they've done the protocols yet for like exactly what happens. But I would almost guarantee you get a positive test, you're probably not playing that next game. I think it'd be almost impossible to play that next game. And I'm just guessing, but they are changing. Yeah. They're changing vaccinated players are only getting tested once every 2 weeks now.
Yeah.
So if you get a positive test, you're not going to wait 2 weeks.
No,
obviously, you're going to take 100 tests just hoping for negatives. But until you get 2 negative, if you get a positive test, I'm sure they are still going to require 2 negative tests for you to get back in the field. And I just don't know, vaccinated or not vaccinated, if you're going to get 2 negative tests within 6 days.
It's also hard to think, hard to believe that they're not going to be testing more than every 2 weeks, because
I could be wrong.
You could be playing 2 weeks and having COVID, and then you're at the back end of it and test positive. You've been playing 2 weeks with COVID.
Yeah, absolutely right. It's
my thing is if you're going to test every 2 weeks, and there's no way you can like every 2 weeks you test positive, then they care, because you could technically, if you tested every week, if in the middle of that you come in contact with somebody, say you get COVID and you're healed of COVID by then, when they test you and you test negative, then you had a 2 week period basically where you had COVID, you had negative tests sandwiched in that little time period. So I think if you're vaccinated, listen, I don't think they honestly.
I also think the NFL. I also think
you're out of your mind,
because if it's not every 2 weeks and it's more strict on testing than that, then it's not bad.
If that's the case, if it's every 2 weeks, I also think the NFL is trying to hide some COVID stuff, because they will. How much money did they lose last year? I mean, a dumb amount, because they couldn't fill their stadium. I mean, look what happened this year.
Mm-hmm.
The salary cap dropped for the first time in God knows how long.
By a lot.
A lot. Believe me, they're doing that because they lost their ass this year. So they don't want people to get tested, to test positive. So the least amount of testing they do is probably better for them. Because there could be a player that has COVID, goes through that 2 weeks and then tests negative, but could have had it. So I think the NFL's smart. They're not dumb. They're going to do.
They know what they're doing.
They're going to do things to make more and more money.
I believe that they probably would want the players on the field if they can be there no matter what. I'm not disputing that. They want the best players on the field. They want the teams to be competitive. And I would have no issue if your argument is the whole testing once every 2 weeks is fake and shallow, and they're just doing it so they can say they're doing it.
It's not fake. It's just stupid. If that's what.
Fine, and like maybe they're just doing it to shut people up, or so they can say they tested people or whatever. I can believe all of that, but there is no way you get a positive COVID test and they turn away. There's no way. There has to.
No. They're gonna quarantine those.
Yeah, players. And they might not do like a forced 2 weeks. It might be as simple as 2 negatives and you're back on the field.
What was it, 2 weeks last year? Because I don't even think it was.
No, it was 2 negatives. The same thing. It was 2 negatives, and I think that's gonna stick. That's like the standard in the world right now, though. Like, you test positive, you get 2 negatives, and then you go back to work. That's like the case everywhere.
A lot of these tests now are
trying to confirm.
You don't know if. There's how many false positives that we have last year?
A lot of them.
I mean, Des Bryant got pulled off the field because he tested positive, and
once every 2 weeks.
And then after the game, he tested negative. He missed a game because it was a false positive. It's just like, it's so hard to to deal. I mean, I don't know how.
No,
they're
I
doing
know.
it.
I think most people are over it, right? Like most people are overhearing it. They're over dealing with it. I think that's why a lot of people got vaccinated, just so they can get back to some sense of normalcy. And I think all of those things apply to the NFL. I don't think the NFL wants to deal with it. They got, brought through the ringer last year financially, and like everything was an issue. The stadiums were losing a ridiculous amount of money every game. Their TV deals were like all thrown off. So I get it. Like I 100% get why there's a huge attraction to be like, let's bury this under the rug and move on with our lives. And I think they're trying to find that fine line of like, we're respecting the state of the world, but also like, let's try to not to let it impact us as much as possible. That's why getting their players vaccinated is such a huge deal to them. It's not because they want them to be safe. It's because they don't want them to test positive.
Other than, in the world, soccer, obviously, everyone talks about soccer. Throughout the world, the biggest sport, but what's bigger than football?
Soccer.
Other than soccer.
Probably a lot of sports, honestly.
There are too many.
But baseball.
So baseball was an interesting one
because
because
lost out a lot.
I don't know enough about baseball to remember his name. Do you remember the guy from the World Series that got pulled halfway through the game because they got his positive test late, and it was a real positive?
They won the World Series,
and then they won, and he's out there making out with his teammates.
He was there. I believe he was the third.
The season was over. He didn't even get in trouble because the season was over. They don't care. They got their money. They move on with their lives. And I think that's probably the case for most of these leagues.
And they actually talked to all the teammates saying, he tests positive. He's out there jumping around, hugging you. Like, we don't give a shit. We won a World Series.
Yeah.
Yeah,
in that moment, I don't think.
Yeah,
in that moment, you don't care. It's like if you won, the Stanley Cup.
You might have gotten a text the next day, be like, "Hey, man."
Yeah.
It's not cool, bro.
At least put your mask on.
Yeah.
All
right. So next one. So we're gonna get into fantasy pretty soon, but we have one more. So this one's breaking news. I want to see it in the comments if this is the first you've heard of it. Breaking news today: the NFL announced that they're bringing back alternate helmets. So it's been a hot
minute. It's been a while.
It's been a while. So a while ago, the NFL said for safety reasons, you can only have one helmet. Why the color of your helmet is a safety concern, I have no idea. But you can only use one helmet, and that's it. So it gets and it's decided in like January of the year before. So they give them a ridiculous amount of time to get fitted to make sure it's perfect, and that's the only helmet you're allowed to use the entire year. So this year they have decided it's okay to bring a second helmet in, and they brought back alternate colors. So the alternate colors, the stipulation is they're only for alternate classic or color rush jerseys. They have to be announced ahead of time. It's all pre-scheduled. It's not something you can just decide the week before because it turned into a great game. And it has to be, I don't know, the colors, it has to be like a real color. You can't just do whatever you want. It has to be part of your uniform.
I think every color's a real color.
You know what I mean? Like the Chiefs can't do neon green because they think it's funny. It doesn't work like that.
Does it?
The entire team has to.
I didn't read too much into it, but does it have to be like?
Oh, you didn't do your homework?
No.
Wow.
No. That's your job.
Real piece of shit.
Yeah, that's your job, asshole. I don't study. So, do they have to?
You also don't drink bourbon, so.
It's very cokey. So, do they have to wear an old helmet, or can it be a new?
No, they get the helmets from their Hall of like the 1996 season, and they make the team wear.
Listen,
are you asking if their helmet is repainted?
Yes.
Uh-oh. If we lost you guys, hang on 1 second. We're coming back.
Nothing.
Oh, yeah, your camera.
Oh, we lost. We lost our.
Uh-oh.
Oh, we're coming back, guys. We're coming back. Hang on. Oh, wrong camera.
Little technical difficulty here. Uh-oh.
We're coming. We're coming. We're coming.
Back to life, guys.
We lost our camera for a hot second. Sorry about that. All right, we got a couple. Oh, we got a couple comments. So, New England Floridian and Megan DiNicola. Love you, ladies. Both said it's the first they've heard of it. So we are officially breaking news. Tell your friends.
There you go.
All right. So to answer your question, no, their helmet is not being repainted. They have a second helmet in rotation.
I know that.
So then what was your question?
The question is, the new helmet that they're wearing,
Yeah.
does it have to be one of their old helmets from the past, or can they are they able to make a new helmet?
You just answered.
So you're going away from the coloring. You're just asking helmet rules.
Yes.
Helmet rules there are like 3 approved helmets in the NFL, and that's all you can wear. And you can pick your own, but that is it. Yeah. So if you remember Antonio Brown, there was a big stink when he spent 2 weeks in the Raiders.
Yes.
Because his helmet, they give you like 7 years or something like that to wear. Like after they discontinue a helmet, you get like 7 years or something to find a new helmet. It might not be 7 years, but it's a long time. Yeah. And his hit that expiration.
I understand.
So they were like, it's no longer safe.
My point is, the alternate helmet is a completely different.
Just a color. Color.
Completely different than.
It has to be the exact same as your primary helmet.
Do you have to choose a helmet you wore that the teams wore 20 years ago?
Are you a moron?
Listen,
what a stupid fucking question.
No,
you think they're gonna throw safety aside for the authenticity of a
bring
classic
back the leather
helmet?
skull cap.
Yeah. Let me get a single bar face mask.
Obviously, you don't understand. You don't understand anything I'm saying.
I don't think you understand what you're saying.
I understand the type of helmet they're wearing. They're wearing. I'm talking about the color scheme.
No, it does
you
not.
Fucking idiot.
Oh man.
Like the Bills have their helmet.
Our camera again? What is happening with this camera?
I don't know.
Why are you doing this to me, Cam?
Jesus. Who bought this piece of shit camera? What a fucking retard.
All right, hold on.
You watch out the R word, bro.
Yeah.
More.
Don't be an a-hole.
There you go.
Oh, man. All right, we'll work out these technical difficulties, guys. Sorry that you're dealing with it. Our camera keeps turning on and off on us for some reason. Let's try it one more time here.
Oh, that's a.
You like this background? We're gonna bring that background in pretty soon. We're working on a green screen setup so we can bring that background to you or some other backgrounds. We'll figure that part out. But anyway,
so back to what I was saying before I was rudely interrupted by this asshole.
You worded that question.
No,
like
I understand.
Safety features. That question was so dumb. The camera turned itself off.
The safety features, everything. The helmets are the same. The color scheme. Are they saying that your alternate has to be a helmet color design that you had in the past, or can you change it to a new?
I get it now. I get the question now.
It's about time.
Well, I said, are we moving away from colors to talk about the actual helmets? And you said yes.
No.
Right?
No. You drink. Come on, give me this.
Yeah.
Keep this away.
Yeah. Why don't you put a little bit in your cup for a change?
I need to. Obviously, you had too much.
All right. So I don't know. I don't know with 100% certainty, but what it sounded like was you have to get it approved in January for it to be eligible, and the NFL will approve it. I would believe that you could come up with a completely new helmet as long as it matched your color scheme.
I don't think a team's going to do that though, because I don't think the fans are going to care about a random
team
like
I'm thinking Color Rush.
Color Rush might be, but I don't like a lot of the Color Rush uniforms though kind of make sense with their helmets.
You only get
have,
one alternate, so it's like I would guess that teams are all going to use their classic helmets because
that's all fans care about. Like as a Chiefs fan, I don't care if the Chiefs come out with a gold helmet, a yellow helmet, a white helmet. I don't care. Just give me the Chiefs logo. Like if they go like an alternate, they can make the logo slightly bigger, or the state of Texas, which makes no fucking sense for the Kansas City Chiefs at this point, given their history. But stupid fucking helmet. But I would not mind a bigger logo.
Yeah. All right.
Go like.
I thought you
want me to say the Buck style.
I thought you were gonna do like a Hunt's ketchup logo on the side of there. Just Mahomes pouring ketchup on steak.
We can only be so erect while watching football. He's the quarterback already. I can't have a bunch of.
Mahomes is he even going to be wearing that helmet? He's probably going to tear his ACL his first game of the season.
This guy.
That is dark.
We all get our way.
Josh Allen throws a little bitch fit on the field in a
Let's
fourth-quarter
be
NFC
real.
Championship
Let's be
game.
real.
And he's talking about my quarterback.
Let's be
Your
real.
quarterback
Josh
needs to
Allen's going to throw for a
grow some
million
balls.
touchdowns this year.
A million touchdowns.
Come on.
A million touchdowns.
All right, that's a fantasy, and so is the next segment. Let's talk fantasy. So it's a little early for fantasy stuff, although I just did a fantasy draft in my keeper league.
Yeah.
But we're just starting to get into fantasy, the fantasy season for redraft leagues. So we thought we'd take a few minutes today and give you some fantasy advice. We are borderline obsessed.
Yeah.
I'd show you the trophy, but unfortunately I lost it this year, so I don't have it on my body.
Last place, right?
No.
Last place. That's
No,
right.
it was
I don't think you lost the last place
I
game.
didn't.
How do you-
He's ninth place.
I was going to say, how do you go from first to last in fantasy?
I'm not
Started
gonna
from the
talk
top,
shit.
now we're here.
I'm not going to talk shit because I didn't.
Anyway,
win, so.
despite that comment, we all have done thousands of hours of fantasy research. So
Yeah.
if we can help you out, we can help you out. If not, get over yourself.
Yeah.
So we're each going to give a do and a don't for fantasy for draft strategy, general draft strategy. We're not talking players. We're not talking anything specific.
Mhm.
We're just saying you're going into your redraft league, and here's some general advice that might help you. So you want to start us off?
I'll start us off. I'm a big fan of, if you've been in a fantasy football league with me, you probably know my strategy. Draft tight ends early. Like, I'm a big fan. Like, I don't think there's been a better second round value in the past 3 fantasy seasons than Travis Kelce, given the fact that,
Notice the shirt he's wearing.
listen to these numbers. Past 3 seasons averaging, out of a second round.
He came with numbers.
Oh.
You
Out
didn't
of-
even do homework. He
Out
came
of a
with numbers.
second round fantasy football pick of the past 3 seasons, if you're going to guarantee me averaging 100 catches, 1,300 yards, and almost 10 touchdowns, I'm going to fucking draft you in the second round all the time. So Travis Kelce's the one tight end I would do.
He's an
second.
outlier. He's an outlier.
Listen to me, let me talk.
Go.
And then third round, Kittle, Waller all day. I think, given last season, Kittle had his injury issues. He's going to come back. He's going to come back strong. Darren Waller's proven to be a top 3 tight end behind, in my opinion, Kelce, Kittle. And then you can even TJ Hawkinson.
No, you're going too far.
No.
Let's do some
Nah,
context.
I mean,
I need some context
My whole
here.
thing is what,
Hold on.
what you're saying.
Hold on. I want him to reiterate his point first, and then you can call him a moron. So your point was, if you have a shot, I'm interpreting
Yeah.
here. This is what you should have said.
This guy.
So if you have the opportunity to get an elite tight end at ADP, is that what you're basically?
I mean,
what
I
you're
would
saying?
say if you have the opportunity to get an elite tight end
In the second or third
in the
round.
second round, go for it. Almost elite tight end, third round, because Kelsey's the only elite tight end in the league.
So my question to
Might
you
be a little
is,
far fetched
my
on the
question
elite
to
tight
you
end
is,
talk, but you know,
last year I got Aaron Jones in the third round.
he's not
are-
a tight end.
Are you taking Aaron Jones or Darren
Well,
Waller?
right now,
Last
What are we in the third? I mean, what are
I'm
we
just saying,
comparing? Now you're comparing.
you got to
There's-
steal
there's-
Brandon Jones in the third.
but I'm just
You gotta
saying,
hear me
like,
out. There's out of the running backs, you're going to get at least a dozen that are going to probably produce over their draft position. I would say on average, tight end is the one position every year in fantasy football I see teams struggle with that doesn't have a prime Gronk back in the day, doesn't have Kelsey, doesn't have Waller. They're struggling to fill the position in week
I mean,
after week.
I
You can't compare it
but,
to Aaron Jones.
but now
third
there's
round
three,
because that's-
possibly 4, because I think Kyle Pitts could be.
Oh, get out
This
of here!
guy.
Too soon.
Kyle Pitts is
Listen,
probably
They
going to be
just
good.
lost. They just lost
Too
Julio
soon.
Jones.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
Too
that
soon.
doesn't matter. Kyle Pitts is probably going to be good.
He will.
I won't say
And-
great because
and
that's I don't
he
like
will
to
be
say that
good
they're
this
gonna be
year,
great.
and then you can talk to me about how.
But
good
he's going to
What
get
do you think?
overdrafted in every league.
What do you think? Do you think he's a top 5
Terribly.
tight end this year?
No,
Maybe.
he hasn't even played a fucking.
Yeah,
game in the
maybe,
NFL.
but okay. So I agree with you in a very narrow, line, and here's why. Kelsey is, he's a different story, and I didn't bring my numbers, but maybe I'll bring them next time. But Kelsey produces not like a tight end in a tight end position, right? Like Kelsey produces as a wide receiver 1
top
in a tight end position.
receiver.
And that's ridiculous. Like that's absurd. So you're basically replacing your tight end position with a wide receiver, first round wide receiver. It's outrageous.
Yeah.
So he is absolutely an exception. And if you want to take him 11, 12, totally fine with that, because you have essentially said, I'm taking tight end off my team and I'm putting an elite wide receiver there instead. And that's fantastic. You can't replace that type of productivity. As soon as you get past Kelsey, and if this was last year, I would have put Kittle into that conversation, but too many injuries. He bit me in the ass. I'm a little bitter about him. We'll talk about the injuries later.
This side note is, before he drafted Kittle, he spent a week every single day during that week screaming at me, telling me if I draft Kittle, I'm an idiot.
It's true.
I'm the biggest asshole because he's going to hurt his shoulder.
Yeah. So
and then he drafts Kittle.
So there's a guy called he's called man, I can't remember his handle. It's like I'll add it to the notes of this later. I'll look it up, but it's like Football Doc, I think is what it's called.
Twitter, yeah.
And so he went through the statistics and he basically said, here's the normal injury percentage, here's the re-injury percentage. If it's a shoulder injury, here's the blah blah blah. And he basically said that there's only a 30% chance that Kittle will play 16 games. So I was like, you can't take him. You can't take Kittle because there's a ridiculous percent chance that he's going to play 10 games or fewer. And tight end's already tough, so then you're going to have to stream somebody, and you're going to stream a tight end, and he's going to be a garbage bag, and so you're wasting that pick by taking Kittle. Kittle fell about 6 spots.
It was a third round when you picked him.
Yeah, I took him late. That's what I'm saying.
Well,
he fell way past his ADP, and I was like, well, holy crap. Like, at this point, even if he only does play 10 games.
What I think happened was you had spent that same week telling me how if Calvin Ridley's there, I'm taking him, and you skipped CalvinRidley to take Kittle.
No, Ridley I think he was the next round.
Who took Ridley?
I know. You did.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, okay. So I'm sorry that I give you too good of advice.
Last year, if you're drafting Kittle in the 3rd round, you're
an asshole.
You're sitting fucking amazing getting that kind of value in the 3rd round.
I did say not to take him, and then I took him, but I took him way later than he was expected.
Kittle was in some probably shitty leagues, a first round pick. They're second, right? I mean, they're high second round tight ends.
He and Kelsey were like considered the same player last year. Now there's a gap there, but that wasn't. There
was always a gap. Kittle has one great season. I mean, everybody. Kelsey finally. It took Kittle getting hurt for people to finally realize Kelsey's the best tight end in the fucking league.
Do you take Kittle in the 3rd round this year?
No, I don't.
And you might. You thought about it for a second.
I would all day.
Because I don't this year. We'll get into that after, but I don't this year. Well, the injury risk is obviously there, but also like
if he plays,
I'm going to do mine. Okay, I'm going to do mine.
Who's the
I'm going to do mine, and I'll feed right into it. Okay. Yeah. So his due is if you have an opportunity to take an elite quarterback around their ADP.
Tight end, not quarterback.
Yep. Sorry. If you have an opportunity to take an elite tight end around their ADP, do it. Because that's a really difficult position. It's basically a throwaway position after the first 3 or 4 tight ends.
It truly is.
At that point, you're hoping for a great matchup. You're likely getting 5 points.
Yeah, like 4 or 5 points. You might get the 1 or 2 games where they go 10, 12 points. They catch a touchdown.
Crap, you got a touchdown. Exactly. So, but after the first couple of tight ends, you might as well stream that. You might as well not even draft one.
I agree.
Like you either draft one early or you don't draft one until the 12th round.
I think after the top
or try 4, to grab
yeah.
someone in
I mean, I would. I mean, I'm not going to not draft somebody. I'm going to take somebody because if you don't draft somebody, there's going to be people
really
that take
bags.
2. There's going to be people that have. I mean, you're going to be stuck with people. They're going to do.
But you're waiting.
yards.
Like if you don't get a tight end, if you don't have a tight end by round 4, then don't grab one until 10 or 12.
Honestly, I usually. If I get a tight end early, I'll wait till either the last pick or I'll just wait till free agency.
If I
have an elite tight end, I'm not drafting.
I mean,
there's one tight end.
I'll cut my kicker for a week. And
there's one tight end on my roster. Yeah. All right. So mine is my. So that was Colby's. My first piece. My due is use tiered rankings. So if you're not familiar with tiered rankings, if you've just lived your life using, Yahoo or NFL's rankings or whatever, there is a wild advantage to doing tiers. And the way that tiers work, and you can get tiered rankings from a million free websites. CBS does tiered rankings. I use Fantasy Pros. A lot of people use Fantasy Footballers. They all do tiers. Anybody decent does tiers. And the significance of it is that it takes away the cloud when you're crossing over positions. So when you're in the fourth round, and first round, second round, people kind of know who they like, who they don't like. It's easy enough to remember 24 players and how you feel about them. When you get into the later rounds and you're like, should I take Swift or Galladay? I don't know why I went with Galladay there, but they're not even
traded for.
They're not even close to ADP. And you're looking at those two, and you're like, well, what do I need more? What do I this? What do I that? Rankings takes all of the nonsense out. Tiers takes all the nonsense out of it. It basically says, based on their productivity, based on how we expect them to perform, where do they sit? So I'm going to go back to the tight end for a second. Kelsey is in a different tier than all of the other tight ends, meaning his average points per week are a complete position above all of the other tight ends. That's why he's in that second tier. The first tier is only like 3 players. The first tier is like CMC. A couple years ago, it would have been CMC, Zeke, and Barkley, and that was basically Now it's like CMC, and it depends on the scoring. Yeah. There's a million variations, but there's only a few people in that top tier because CMC is the same story. He produces like 2 positions, so it's not like taking a great running back. It's like taking a great running back and a good wide receiver. Like that's how many fantasy points he produces every week. So the tiers do that for you. They essentially say if there's 5 people on your board and you're looking at them and you're trying to think about matchups, you're looking at the teams, you're looking at their strength of schedule, you're looking at this, like you're overthinking the entire thing. The tier will take all of that out of it. The tier will tell you Michael Thomas, despite his last year, Michael Thomas is a tier above the other 3 guys on your list. It doesn't matter if it's running back, wide receiver, tight end, quarterback. It doesn't matter. Proportional to his position and the people that are around him, he's a tier above it. And the last thing I'll say about it before I get feedback from you guys is why that's so important is that – oh, man, I lost my train. Why that's so important – I got it now. I got it. All right. Why that's so important is because when you're forming your team and you're like, okay, I already have 3 running backs. Okay, I already have 2 wide receivers. I already have whatever. And I think you have an opinion on how you should structure your team or what you should chase and why. What it does for you is it gets you to that point where you can say that in the next tier, I have 6 wide receivers and 1 running back. So I might be in tier 3 and I can choose between a running back and a wide receiver. They're both in the same tier. They're neck and neck. Then you go to the next tier. All right, well, the next tier, I only have 1 running back and I have 5 wide receivers. So the likely chance for me to get another running back in this same tier or even a running back in the next tier is close to 0. So I need to take my running back now because I have a million wide receivers I'm going to be able to choose from that are in a great tier next pick, and I'm going to have no running back. So it works both ways. If you're torn, you take the higher tier. If you're only looking at 1 tier, you look at the tier below it to say, what am I going to be able to get next pick? And why that's so important is because if you take a wide receiver and there's 6 more wide receivers that are in that same tier for you next thing, you didn't net any points. You got no advantage from that pick. You would have gotten the same amount of weekly points in your next pick. So you take the higher pick. Take the higher tier.
Yeah, no, I like it.
No, I agree.
All right. What's yours?
So one thing I've done over the past few years, and I've always believed in, is heavy running back. I normally always go running back first and second pick. My belief is if you take the top 4 running backs and the top 4 receivers, those running backs are going to score way more points than your wide receivers. And realistically, you have your top 5 receivers.
Mhm.
By your second pick, you can probably get one of the top receivers.
Middle to end of first round.
Yeah, but
Maybe
your
not in the first
your
round,
first
middle
your
first.
first receiver is usually going when?
What?
6th, 5th, 6th
Oh,
pick.
and then the overall draft. Yeah.
I mean,
you have
fifth
some
or
crazy
sixth.
fifth,
Yeah,
there.
sixth
fifth or
pick.
sixth.
You have a better chance of getting a top tier receiver later in the draft than getting a top. And even last year, if Saquon Barkley had stayed healthy, I would have killed it because my 3rd round pick was Aaron Jones. I went running back
we get
first,
it.
second,
My
third.
goodness. If
He had to
could
bring it
suck
up in
his-
that time.
He could suck his own dick over that 3rd
I'm
round
just
pick,
saying,
he
like,
would.
I
Proudest
believe
moment of
that
his life.
I believe
Got
You're
2
gonna-
kids. That's still his proudest moment.
you're gonna have a better chance of getting a top tier receiver later in the draft than you will a top tier running back. So I believe if you can get top running backs the first couple picks, take it. That's my
Yeah.
and if you're picking at the end of the first round, you're not going to get one of those receivers anyway. You're just not. You're not going to get. You have Devontae Adams. You have.
I don't know.
Now,
I'm nervous
the-
to
if
touch
Aaron
a Packer
Rodgers-
right
if
now.
Aaron Rodgers- if Aaron
Oh.
Rodgers is not guaranteed to play for the Packers, does Devontae Adams come off the board first as receiver?
I don't think so. Who does?
Stephon Diggs.
Because it would have been Julio Jones, but now he's
No,
not
I don't
as
even
good
think
at.
it
Not
was-
even. Not
saying-
anymore.
No, I'm saying as a Falcon, but
I mean,
it's not him
Even
anymore.
as a Falcon, I don't think he's
Oh,
first. I
mean-
still think. I mean, Julio Jones
you
is
have
still a
Tyreek Hill.
top 5, 6
You have
wide
Tyreek
receiver.
Hill. You have.
Just say his name, Stephon Diggs. I know you want to say it.
I was going to leave him last, but Stephon Diggs. And then you have
Devontae Parker. No,
Just
no,
stop
guys.
it. Stop it.
No, that's Albert Wilson.
Yeah,
He's your wide receiver.
I should have went with the rookie. I should have said
the
Waddle.
Cardinals. Oh, how am I blanking on his name?
Oh, you're such a piece of shit,
Oh,
DeAndre
DeAndre
Hopkins.
How do you not?
He's
put him in the top?
probably number 1. Actually, he's probably
No.
my number 1 receiver. I'd have to look at my rankings, but he's probably my number 1 receiver. If
I like DeAndre Hopkins even with Kyler Murray, and I'm not a Kyler Murray fan of his arm.
Listen,
He's
So okay, but Kyler Murray was. I mean, but when he was in trouble, who did he throw to?
listen, I'm gonna.
he throws a DeAndre
I will
Hopkins.
tease
Every-
this right
It's like
now.
it's why the same thing
He
as
was 10 receptions a game.
It's like the same thing. Devontae Adams is still going to be one. Like even without Aaron Rodgers, is still the second or third receiver
So
off the board
Who
because
is
that's who you got to throw to. In Green
this
Bay.
year? This year with the Packers situation with Devontae Adams, without Aaron Rodgers, who's your top receiver? You're saying
I think it's
Hopkins.
probably D Hop
okay.
for me.
What running back? Okay, so where are you
CMC.
taking him? Where are you taking him?
Oh, I'd have to
What
look.
run?
It's
I'm
tough
just
to-
saying, like
I know it's
you're-
tough to
you're
do
gonna-
without.
There's probably 6
I
running
have
backs. you're
rankings.
taking-
If you guys want to do a
But I'm
show
just
with
saying-
our
but
rankings,
I'm just
I'll do a
saying,
show with
do
our
a
you're
rankings.
probably
football.
taking.
Yeah, we'll do a
you're
show
probably
with
not
rankings.
taking him till 7 or 8.
No, it's not
No,
that.
I'll-
It's not that late. It's not that late.
Not at
You
all.
think so?
No, it's not that late.
No,
It's
the way
probably-
fantasy football works every season,
probably
you
the
have,
same.
you have
It's
3 or
probably
4
fifth.
running backs, like a 1,
But-
2, 3, 4. Then you have 1, 2,
You
3,
have
4
CM
receivers,
CMC.
and then that's when you start getting the
You
mix.
have CMC.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You have Barkley,
Mhm.
Zeke,
Mm,
Henry.
yeah, not in that order.
No,
Yes.
but I'm just saying. I'm just naming some.
Yeah,
mean-
Barkley's interesting because he's coming off. an
I
injured
am
season.
confident that Barkley's going to bounce back.
No,
I
he will.
actually,
Their
Yeah.
offensive
I'm
line
actually,
have gotten better. Their
I'm actually confident
receiving
Zeke's going to
core
bounce
is
back
better.
too. But
Daniel Jones is also.
I mean,
Daniel
another. But
Jones.
listen,
the more you
He's-
can keep the ball out of his hands,
Yeah.
the better you're going to do.
okay, but I believe third year is make or break for quarterbacks.
In this day, and
Unless
age.
you're
Yeah,
an
probably
outlier
right in
like
this day and
Mahomes,
age.
where
Yeah.
shows out his second year, but very rarely.
Thank you.
His
for
first
that.
year
I'm just
Yeah. Well, second year.
his second year
in the
because
NFL,
he didn't-
first year
yeah, he
starting.
didn't- yes, but realistically, in the NFL, you have 3 years to show what you have, or they're going to look in
Depends on
another
the
direction.
situation, but yes, I
It
agree.
depends on. I'd say it depends on the position.
Yeah.
Most positions
And
you
the
get 3 years
situation,
and
yeah.
you're gone, and you might get a look or two, hit a practice squad or get a minimum deal. But yeah, for the most
It
part,
depends how
3
But
bad
you gotta
are at
understand.
the
Yeah.
position.
Look at
yeah.
and I'm not a Giants fan, but Daniel Jones had one of the worst offensive lines in the league. And who was his running back? It was different every week.
Well, after
His running backs, honestly, last
even
season
Barkley,
weren't terrible.
even Barkley was
not that great.
The replacement
They
running backs were better than Barkley.
Of course, because they weren't playing. They weren't playing friggin' 8 in the box every time.
That's fair.
You know, when you don't have
different
Barkley,
game plan.
when you don't have Barkley back there, and you have some no-name running back
in the box.
You're not stuffing the box.
That's
You're
fair.
playing back, and that running back can do whatever he
You're
wants.
playing back for the guy
Exactly.
with the cannon arm. Daniel Jones is going
I'm
to
just
throw
saying.
40 touchdowns.
There's a different game plan when
shoelaces tied together halfway down the field.
You know, there's a different game plan when Barkley's back there and when some running backs back there.
No, you're right. That's another thing that defends the Saquon Barkley argument. That is, I don't like him in my top running back group because teams are going to game plan around him. They don't have a quarterback that's going to
but they got
take teams away.
They have good receivers.
They have better.
They haven't had bad receivers though.
They haven't had bad receivers, but Galladay changes the dynamic
if he's on the field.
Galladay is
and they
to me
Galladay
if Galladay is healthy, he's a top 10 receiver in the league.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think the Giants and the Giants lit on fire at the end of last year. Like they ended up finishing.
So did
I think
a couple seasons
Sterling Shepard.
You
have Sterling Shepard on one side.
Gates.
I mean, Evan Ingram, their tight end
he's good.
Top tier tight. I mean,
good.
you have a lot of weapons.
It's a little heavy. He's all right.
I think
he had one.
He's a tier, that's for sure.
Good season, and he's been all right since.
You have to put the pieces there. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. If I ask you to tell me where Ingram goes as a tight end in your list,
let's hear this.
It's not top 5.
No.
All right, so then he's not a top tier tight end.
But he is a.
I know he's a good tight end.
He's a good tight end.
I like Ingram.
You know, I think he's up there. I mean, obviously you have your 3 tight ends that everyone's going to go first.
Am I the only one who's not willing to fucking crown Waller yet? Like, he had a great fucking year. Don't get me wrong. But
He's had a couple. Like, that's the thing is everybody finally recognized him last year. I think with Kittle getting hurt. So like everybody needs everybody has to compare the best at the position to somebody else.
If Waller
if Kittle stayed healthy last year, Waller probably doesn't get the recognition. But Waller's been balling out.
Waller is good. Don't get me wrong.
You're not going to put him over Kelsey because Kelsey.
No, I think he's number 3. I think he is where he belongs. But I would make the argument that they're in 3 separate tiers. That Kelsey's in one tier when you cross positions. Yeah. Kelsey's in a tier. Kittle's in a tier, and then Waller's in a third tier.
I think Waller and Kittle are. I think they're the same tier.
If Kittle's healthy.
If Kittle's healthy, I still put.
No way, man. Talent-wise, yes.
It depends on what we're talking about.
The situation's completely different.
Fantasy football,
yes,
100%. I will put Waller and Kittle same tier. I would probably put Waller ahead of if I'm doing strictly fantasy. Waller because I get more of a guarantee. Waller's been healthy.
He's healthy.
I don't have to worry. It pains me to say this because he's a Raider, and I hate the fucking Raiders. But Waller is a great tight end.
He is.
Waller is.
I would put him 2 over Kittle.
He's very talented. I wouldn't.
I think Kittle's going to take the number 2 after this year. But as of this moment, I would put Waller above Kittle.
The reason I wouldn't, and we're way off here, and we're late, so we're going to jump off this in a second, but the reason I wouldn't is because the 49ers have Kittle and fucking no one. He's their only tool. Like, look at these.
They got a lot of tools probably in the locker room.
Look at these. Look at these teams historically that have had one playmaker. Look at the Falcons pre-Ridley. Julio Jones was the number 1 wide receiver for 6 fantasy years in a row because that's all they had. They didn't have anyone else. And then they had a decent tight end for 1 year, and then he went to the Browns. They had nothing. Look at Megatron for the Lions. He was elite for 10 years because they didn't have anybody else. They had Marvin Jones, who's still playing.
Yeah, I mean Megatron. He's a different
freak of nature.
He's a top 2, 3
DK Metcalf
wide receiver.
Before DK Metcalf.
Yeah. Well, he's DK Metcalf. That is an actual great fucking wide receiver. Yeah. Megatron's a top 2, 3 receiver of all time, probably.
I think DK Metcalf is the number 1 wide receiver off the board starting next year.
No, I still take Tyler Lockett all day
over Metcalf.
Fantasy? You're out of your mind.
Take it away from
me. You're out of here. But finish your drink. What an outlandish comment. That's ridiculous. Yeah, well, we're gonna do a show that's just fantasy because This is ridiculous.
I wouldn't
All
be
right.
surprised if
All right.
Russell Wilson and DK Metcalf are sleeping in the same bed.
Yeah.
See, I mean, all he
Metcalf
talks
is
about
a
is DK
freak
Metcalf.
of nature.
Oh my god!
Like he's like he has the hands. He might not have his route running skills yet, but he has the same hands as Lockett, and he's twice as fast and 8 inches taller. Like, what else can you ask for?
Yeah, I mean, it's size. I mean,
Did you see
DK
what he
Metcalf's
just
still-
did at? Yes, he came in like 8th place at the Olympic trials.
No, he came in last.
No, he
but,
didn't.
Yeah, he came in last. But
I don't think
He
came
can
in
only
last.
count
dead
to
last.
8.
He
though.
came in dead
I don't
last.
think he came in
I
last.
promise you he came in last. But even coming in last at that race is absurd for somebody who's not a professional
He
sprinter.
ran like a 10.
Yeah, no,
100
he's
yard.
ridiculous. He's a ridiculous
I'll
athlete.
take. I mean, he
All
put Mecole Hardman, Tyreek Hill in that race. I mean, geez.
So we did our dues. The dues were consider a tight end, consider Kelsey or Kittle early as
Waller.
long as
don't
they're
hate on Waller.
fuck Waller.
I'm sure.
Mine was use tiered rankings. Make sure your rankings are tiered. Don't go off of straight numbers. Yours was running backs, and I'll summarize it a little differently, but I completely agree with the sentiment. Running backs dry up a lot faster than wide receivers.
Early and often.
And you didn't even touch it necessarily like my take on it. My take on it is so many teams are moving to
A running.
Committee, running back by committee.
a running back by committee model that like, so many teams have 2 or 3 tight ends that get like equal share, that when you do find those CMCs, when you do find those Barkleys, when you do find those guys that take 90%, they're in 90% of the plays, that's a huge deal.
Yeah.
It's all about opportunity. Like when you boil down fantasy, it's efficiency and opportunity. It's the ratio between those two things. So running back opportunity has completely changed over like the last 5 years or so,
Every
where
team
it
has
used
2
to be,
running backs,
it used to be one dominant running back and a backup, and now that's just not the case anymore. So if you can find a like real 3 down back, that's a huge deal. So I agree with you for that reason. Now we're gonna do some don'ts, and then we're gonna do these ones a little quicker. What's your
go
don't?
Quick and easy.
Okay.
Don't chase the runs. Seems like every season you get 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th round, somewhere in there. Someone drafts the top defense on the board, and then everybody drafts
14 more defenses go
Everyone gets
immediately.
scared.
So I think if you can, there might be 1 or 2 more defenses after that there's no problem to draft, but you just got to fight temptation and just don't take a defense. Because at the end of the day, your defense, if you get 5 points a week out of defense, you're doing all right.
It's not even just defense. You say same thing with quarterback.
Quarterback.
As soon as Mahomes
kicker,
goes, Lamar Jackson goes.
Yeah.
And then this year, Kyler Murray will go right after that. And then, like, whatever. And then the same thing happens with tight ends.
Relax. Who's the second quarterback off the board?
Josh.
Thank you. Let's not. Come on. Relax.
I can't wait.
Come on.
I can't
You know
wait
what?
until he's flat out mediocre.
You guys really need to stop drinking like this. Come on.
It happens with almost any position that isn't running back or wide receiver, right? Like it
Yeah,
happens with kickers, defenses.
I mean, you'll get a string of wide receivers in the 6th round, and it'll be a round and a half of receivers. It seems like so.
Yeah,
you can avoid that. You're good.
I agree, and as an extension of that, it's almost an opportunity. If you see 5 people in your league smashing whatever one position, that means that they've neglected the fact that there's a good player in another position that was left over. Because the reality is, after you get past the first round, maybe even the first 2 rounds, then it becomes like a pretty even split. Like whether you take a running back or a wide receiver or a tight end, like any one of them are going to help your team depending, like then it kind of becomes best player available. And so if everyone's taking one position, that means that they've ignored somebody that is more talented in a different position. So don't get scared. Like it's easy to be like, oh shit, the best 4 defenses are on there. If I don't get the 5th one, I'm screwed. You're not screwed, man. You're not.
Just the 5th defense, the 10th defense.
Most of the
they're
time,
all the
point
same.
or a point.
Yeah,
if you don't have a top 3 defense, you're streaming.
Instead of doing that, you can find like a promising second-year wide receiver. You can grab Henry Ruggs, and who knows, maybe he lights on fire this year. Like that's a better pick than chasing the run.
Yeah, if you don't take a top 3 defense, most of the time you're streaming a defense who's playing the worst offense that week. So
and whoever's played the Jets.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I get.
This year it's going to be the Texans. Who's playing the Texans?
Yeah,
it's true.
Yeah.
So
what's your don't?
my don't is don't be a fanboy. So don't pick your team and say, I'm picking all the players on my team because they're my team.
Mm-hmm.
Very rarely do you have your team set up to, the Chiefs are obviously, he's a Chiefs fan, but you have Tyreek Hill and you have.
They're the one
Mahomes.
outlier team in the league.
Everybody has their ADP.
Listen,
don't reach.
You have a few
right?
teams in the league that you can go with your players. The Chiefs, last year the Packers. Who else was it last year that was pretty good? Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs.
What? Dude.
But
I can't wait to see how this dynamic changes when they go 1-4.
I'm just saying.
It's a week 5 when the Chiefs
all I'm saying is don't be a fanboy. I'm finally allowed to because I finally have a good receiver and quarterback.
Hey, I'm glad you called them good because that's all they are.
In the past, we're going to beat you guys this year. But in the past, I didn't have that luxury. There's only a handful of teams where you could be a fanboy and pick the 2 players like that.
Yeah, even the Chiefs, though, you got to be careful because,
you always have to be
Mecole Hardman, I like him. I think he's going to be decent this year, but I'm not going to draft him. Unless he's there.
Who's your second wide receiver this year?
But you were Mecole Hardman.
There really is. They really don't know because you have Demarcus Robinson, who's probably not going to be number.
You don't think he's
likely going to be? If I had to throw out there, it's going to be the rookie we drafted out of Clemson, Cornell Powell, would be my guess. Who's going to be number 2?
He's sick, but
he's a beast.
I still think Mecole Hardman can be that.
Mecole Hardman's going to be a slot guy because he is stupid fast. His hands are all right, not great, and his route running is all right, not great. He can run straight. He'll run a slant. And that's all he's going to give.
But Colby proved my point last year.
What's the point of a slot receiver when you have Kelsey on your team?
Colby proved my point to a T.
I drafted Edwards-Helaire number 3 overall, which wasn't so. It was a little. I'll admit it's an overdraft.
He
not crazy giving
number 3 overall.
Everything.
He picked his rookie running back. Running back.
I believe
at 3 overall.
When you don't have anybody behind him. You expect it.
Yeah, in all fairness, Damian Williams had opted out.
Yeah.
And Darrell
Williams is good, not great.
Meh.
Yeah, he's all right. I admitted I overdrafted. I drafted him even going into it knowing I'm overdrafted.
What shocked me with that? I understand. He was a top 10 running back. I understand.
Mm-hmm.
You have Mahomes on your team. You have Andy Reid as your head coach.
But Andy Reid uses
ball.
But Andy Reid's one of those coaches that uses one running back.
You are throwing the ball.
You're right.
70% of the time.
This is what surprises me about
30% of the Chiefs' offense, when they only use one running back, that running back is still more relevant than a lot of other teams.
He was also a rookie.
Listen,
that was too high. Do you know what he finished?
I'd have to look it up.
He finished he finished as an RB1. No, he finished as an RB1.
He didn't have a bad season.
No,
he didn't have a number 3 overall.
You drafted
season.
him too high.
No, I'll admit that. I've admitted that when I drafted him.
But he wasn't a bust.
He wasn't a bust. He also got hurt. He was out for 4 games.
Yeah, the most surprising part about it was only a couple games. It was
more than 2 games.
I don't remember. Honestly, don't
2
remember.
sounds right.
The most surprising part about Edwards-Helaire, and we'll get off this, is Andy Reid likes to throw to his running backs. And for some reason, he did not trust to throw to him. Even at LSU, Edwards-Helaire was a fantastic running back out of the backfield to catch the ball.
He's a rookie. You don't see many rookie running backs coming out and lighting it up. You just don't.
That's not true.
Yeah, it seemed like last year was.
Think about every elite running back in the NFL right now. Think about every running back that you mentioned in your top 5. Every single one of them was nasty as a rookie.
Oh, but
Barkley, ridiculous. Zeke, ridiculous.
CMC was probably the only one that wasn't because D'Angelo.
He was ridiculous.
Was it? Because D'Angelo Williams was still there, wasn't he?
So maybe not for the first half of the season. Maybe his end, but
I'm not saying he wasn't ridiculous.
You knew by the end of the year he was.
But you're not drafting him top 5.
No. He drafted him too early.
No,
All
I
right.
definitely did.
So
I
wait.
definitely
So
if he was not a Chiefs fan, would he have taken him third?
No.
No, probably not.
And you're
I'll
right.
admit
So
it.
your thing was being a fanboy, and I would. So the way I would like process that dynamic is I would say like trust your rankings over your fandom.
Yeah.
Right. Like if I'm a Dolphins fan and if I get to the list and Devontae Parker's number one on my list in my rankings, I'm not gonna not take him because I'm a Dolphins fan. But if he's fourth on my list, I'm not gonna take him.
Who are you taking, Josh Allen or Tua this year?
Don't be stupid.
What
a stupid question.
I'm just saying. I just want to hear your pretty mouth say it.
Stupid.
I just want to
you
hear
think you're gonna hear it?
He's going to take the next best
Yeah.
quarterback.
And you think you're gonna hear it? Yeah. I will tell you right now, and we haven't done our draft yet, so I'm screwing myself here. My quarterback
live stream the draft
my
this year?
quarterback one this year is Kyler Murray. I think he's going to be the number one fantasy quarterback. In
You
football
also
this year.
told me Kittle was the worst tight end in the league, and you drafted him.
I didn't say he was the worst tight end in the league. I said he's not going to finish the season, and I fucking nailed it.
I could see Kyler Murray because he's going to obviously run the ball not as good as Lamar Jackson, but almost as good as Lamar Jackson. He's got a better arm than Lamar.
That's
Jackson.
exactly what it is.
And he's a hell of a lot smarter than Lamar Jackson.
Quarterbacks this year in fantasy.
Yeah, obviously it's the four that you fucking know.
But no, seriously,
It's
rank them from
some douchebag in North.
Number one,
Mahomes.
I wouldn't
Fantasy.
even
We're talking
fantasy football.
fantasy.
It's Mahomes.
It's
Mahomes.
It's not Mahomes because he doesn't run like. I mean,
It doesn't matter.
Your
He throws
overall point
50
total. Your overall point total
points.
is going to be probably Kyler Murray, Lamar, then Mahomes.
Okay.
They run for 800
How do I think they're going to
yards.
finish, or how do I expect them to be drafted? How do I think they're going to finish?
Who are your top four? The way you think they're going to finish? Your top four quarterbacks right now. Who
All
are
right.
you? If you had them all on the board, who are you taking first, second, third? Fourth?
Okay. So
Oh,
if I had the choice of any quarterback and I'm taking a quarterback 100% with no other considerations, I'm still probably taking Mahomes because he's a completely safe bet.
Yeah.
But
So
if
right
it's
now,
but hold on.
you
But
go
if
back
it's a
and they're
best
all
ball league, or if I'm doing like,
No, we're talking about a normal.
I
draft.
know,
No,
but that's
we're not
what I'm
doing keeper
saying.
League. We're not doing any of that.
but this is why it's an interesting thing. I believe that Kyler Murray will end the season as the best quarterback in football.
But you're not taking him.
But I wouldn't take him
That makes no
over
sense.
Mahomes
That
because
makes no sense.
because there's still a risk there. There's a risk about his shoulder. There's a risk about that team. The defense is better than the Chiefs' defense. So
The
might
people
be
that are
times where they
watching
don't do
right
it.
now want to know who they're taking 1 through 4. What quarterback they're taking first?
Mahomes.
Okay, second.
But I still feel as though at the end of the year,
that makes no sense.
Kyler Murray will
It makes
that
sense
makes no
because
sense.
fantasy football is all
No.
about risk, and if you're in
Yes.
a position, you're going to take Kyler
Why-
Murray.
no, that makes
if you're
no sense.
if
you
someone's
think
got a gun
someone's
to your
gonna
head and they're like, take a quarterback, you're going to take Mahomes because he's
he's
proven he's
guaranteed
consistent.
productivity.
He's
Yes,
guaranteed 4,500 yards. He's
You have to think
guaranteed
about
30
winning the
plus
championship and
touchdowns.
who's going to score you more points.
But winning the championship is a balance between risk and consistency.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're taking Mahomes 1.
I'm taking Mahomes 1. I'm probably taking Josh Allen 2. And Kyler Murray. Maybe Kyler Murray then Josh Allen. I don't know. I'd have to look at that one. They're very, very close. They're neck and neck.
I'm not going to lie.
And then Lamar Jackson.
I'd probably say Lamar Jackson number 2 just because he's consistently running for seems like 1,000 yards.
Lamar Jackson.
He's
has
got
been
one
figured
more
out.
season.
He's
Lamar
been
Jackson
figured
has
out.
one more season
No.
before injuries start to be a problem.
He has been figured out.
He has been figured
Look at
out.
him at the end of the year.
He has
He's
been
been
figured out.
figured
But
out.
even figured out.
He's not.
Even figured out fantasy-wise, I would never want Lamar Jackson as the Dolphins quarterback. He's not a good quarterback. He doesn't know how to make reads. He's one-dimensional. Everything about him I dislike. From a fantasy perspective, because you get a point for every 10 yards in most standard leagues, he is still an elite fantasy quarterback,
100%.
even if he's not an elite real-life quarterback. Those teams that sold out to shut him down, to shut down the run, yes, they were effective against him in real life. He still had good fantasy days against them.
But he also had fantasy days where he had 6 points.
He had like 1.
But I'm still
like, yeah, I get it.
I think he's a boomer bust fantasy player.
He's more.
He is, but
he has the risk of bust. Yes,
he will
where
win,
Mahomes has no risk of bust.
Yeah, a bad day for Mahomes in fantasy is probably 15
and 20
Yeah.
points.
And that's why I take Mahomes 1 is because his worst day is 15 points. His best day is 40.
Yeah, his worst game's going to be 250 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception.
Yeah, I mean, Lamar. Jackson scares me.
No, he does me too.
We can talk about this for 2 more hours.
All right, so your don't was don't be a fanboy, and I agree with that. The way I would summarize it, like I said, is trust your rankings. Mm-hmm. Don't reach for somebody just because you want to root for them. It'll backfire. It won't just backfire in the draft. It'll backfire in the season. Mm-hmm. When you know deep down they're not the right play and you play them anyway because you want to be able to root for your team and your fantasy team together. Just separate those two things. Rooting for your fantasy team and rooting for your real life team are two different things. All right. What's your don't?
You already said it.
What was it? Don't chase the run. That's right. You're right. Yeah, you're right.
Just take it away.
You're right. All right. So my bad. So we're finishing this. You guys, you can almost go to bed.
You proved to yourself to be a real asshole tonight.
Yeah, these things happen. It's hard. It's hard trying to keep shit in check. Hey yo.
Well, I'm an asshole.
That's another show.
Don't be a dick. All right. My don't. I'm gonna cheat a tiny bit here. It's sort of a combination one. So I was torn between don't take 2 good tight ends, don't take 2 elite tight ends, and don't draft to trade. And I feel like those things go hand in hand a lot of times. So I'm gonna cheat and I'm gonna use them both. The reason that you'd never draft to trade is because you will never get what you wanted to get for them. Even if you took them 4th overall, you're never going to get 4th overall value for them because the 5th overall guy still loves the guy he took. He's not going to give you his guy and someone else for your person. It will never work out. So don't do it. And then you're stashing this guy in your team that you're either forced to play in your flex or you can't play at all, just hoping that someone gets desperate. You're hurting your team. Play to make your team the best. Don't worry about everybody else. Fuck the other teams. Be one-dimensional. Make your team as good as they can be. Yep. And it usually shows itself in tight ends, and that's why I'm cheating here. Do not take 2 elite tight ends. Mm-hmm. If you take Kelsey at the turn and Kittle's still sitting there, even if he's 10 positions below his ADP, do not take him. And I know that sounds shitty, and there's going to be people that are going to disagree with me on it, but the fact is, you're eliminating your flex position when you do that. You are turning your flex position into a tight end position. So let's say you get some crazy running back steal the next round. Where are you going to play him if you already took 2 running backs? You're forced to play that second tight end that you took. So you're making your team rigid and one-dimensional, and it's just not a good strategy. I promise you'll regret it. So never draft a guy because you think you're going to be able to trade him, and don't draft 2 guys that you have to start in a position where you only have 1 starter.
I'll piggyback off that. Don't draft 2 tight ends at all because the second tight ends.
Because Colby will be drafting 2 tight ends. So you won't have a chance to draft 2 tight ends. And that's one thing I've always believed. I mean, you have to trust your draft, or your board, your draft. I'm big on. I mean, there's a couple ones you use. I like Fantasy Pros a lot.
Yep.
Fantasy footballers, they do the ultimate draft kit. That's great. CBS's is great. There's
a bunch of they all got super knowledge.
They all have. I mean, you have to go off what your knowledge is, and then take everything into account. What the other people that do their little draft boards, but don't draft like that. I mean, you
don't draft for the other teams. Don't be like, 3 people don't have a quarterback yet. If I take a quarterback now, even though I already have one, then they're going to have to trade me. No, they won't. Yeah. They're going to find the Gardner Minshew. They're going to find that guy that guy that just shows up out of nowhere. And what are you going to do? Take a 3rd quarterback to force someone to trade with you?
That's the thing. Like if you start drafting like that, you're going to take one of the guys you took in the 12th round, 13th round, and drop him to pick up that guy that is crazy because they're not going to drop that player that they were like, I'm going to trade him.
Wasted 2 drafts.
Exactly. Yeah. So, you trust your board. Trust your board. Yeah. Don't draft to try to scare someone else and get higher value. It just it doesn't work.
Don't overthink it. Make your team the best it can be.
If you're in a smart league,
There's a difference.
There is,
Yeah.
because you're going to go into a brand new league, or you can be like, I'm going to go with this new league that then never done fancy before, and they would probably do that.
Yeah, you
But
can
if you're
start runs, you can
yes,
trick people.
Yes,
you can,
if you're in an
a
experienced
decent
league,
if you're in a decent league,
they're just going to call you an asshole.
Focus
and
on your team.
You're going to have
Don't worry
that.
about the other
You're
They're just going to wait for you to cut that person.
Exactly.
Because if you get an
Yeah.
injury if you get a wide receiver injury, you get a running back
Exactly.
injury,
that's
or
what
you get the hot waiver wire pick of the week, you're
Yeah.
going to have to drop somebody, and it's usually going to be that extra player at the
That you
position
were
that you
trying
don't
to trade,
need.
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing.
That's one of my number one draft strategies is when I research players, who are the players that are going to suck for the first 4 weeks and then are probably going to be good. Because I'm going to wait for you to draft them, you to drop them, and then I'm going to take them for free.
I mean, I did it last year, Justin. I mean, I had to pick up running back because of injuries, but Justin Jefferson was on my bench. Drafted him. I dropped him week 3.
Who picked him up?
Oh, get over it. You're acting like you won the
Who
league.
picked up Justin?
You didn't even
Jefferson?
win.
I'm trying to make a fucking
All
point.
I'm saying is who picked up Justin Jefferson.
God,
I'm just. Does anyone
This
know?
Yeah.
guy's got Justin Jefferson on this side,
Yeah.
Aaron Jones on this side.
Ah,
I can't tell where the
I'm just
stuff
saying.
ends and his goatee begins.
I mean, let's talk. Wide receiver 1 and running back 1. I mean, those are the two guys.
That's
Neither one of those were accurate.
For his team,
Aaron
yes.
Jones wasn't a running back 1 last year.
He
wasn't
wasn't
a top-
the number.
No,
You're saying
but he was
running back one.
Oh, top tier running back last year.
Yeah, he's top tier.
Okay, thank you.
He wasn't
What was
Kamara,
Justin?
who was running back
Okay.
1.
Yes.
Yeah.
And like the 10 weeks he fucking played, he put like
Yeah.
7 touchdowns a week up.
All right. Anyway, we've wasted enough of your time.
Yeah.
We love you guys. We're going to keep this going. We're going to keep working on our technology so our camera doesn't cut
Yeah.
out. We're going to fix the background a little bit, working on some intros and stuff. So stick with us. Give us some feedback. Let us know what you liked, what you didn't like, what you want to see more of, what you want to see less of.
Shirts, no shirts. I
Yeah,
mean,
maybe we get a paper bag for this asshole.
Yeah. Or
Maybe-
gag for half
We're going to
the
have to
show.
do – all right, you know what we're going to do? We're going to
So
incorporate
when
a
you
bet.
gag on it, you throw it into the bag.
We're going to incorporate a bet where the loser isn't allowed to reference their team in a positive manner.
Where did,
You
our,
know,
where did our bullshit button
Maybe
go?
the
Now we
next we need to come out with whoever loses the league, because I saw a fun little Twitter feed of a guy in Missouri who lost his fantasy football league, and the loser had to spend 24 hours in a Waffle House. And the funny thing was, every waffle you ate took an hour off the time you had to spend in there.
And he didn't get shot, which wasn't good.
I mean, it's very impressive.
So
So
win for Waffle.
let's
I'm
be
just
real.
saying,
I've
9 waffles and you leave fucking 17,
That's-
16 hours later.
listen. Don't tell me that, because I'll go out. I'll go out before.
He'll start
And
nobody.
I'll start drinking before I have to go there, and then it'll be the best night of my life. I mean, don't
I mean,
act
I'll
like
probably-
you've never showed up at Waffle House after a night of drinking.
I
Come on,
think
let's
that's the
be
only
real.
time to
Yeah.
show up to
Yeah.
Waffle House.
Don't show up.
I'll
take an
Uber there.
I think I've walked from the club that was 30 minutes away to get to the Waffle House. Come on, let's be real.
Not that
All
desperate.
right.
I'll go to Denny's if I gotta go to Denny's instead of a Waffle House.
Taco Bell for me.
Grow up.
Taco Bell.
Grow up.
2 a.m. Taco Bell for me.
I've done it, but come on.
All
grow
right.
up.
Thank you guys. We love you. Woodford Reserve Double Oaked. We have a review on the
Yeah.
channel. It's fantastic.
Yeah, we'll link the review in the comments.
yeah.
You guys
It's
know
great with a
it's
little
delicious.
Coke too, if you don't like
Oh.
that.
It's a sweet bourbon. You throw some extra sugar on
Yeah.
top of it.
You don't need
It's-
it. You don't need a
Yeah.
Coke for
It's a
this.
chef's
You can
kiss.
you
It's
can drink
delicious.
this neat, and it's delightful.
Yeah.
Anything double oaked is great. Toasted barrel, same
I also
concept.
enjoy women. They don't.
I will say, not everything double oaked is not great. Look for that review.
No, that was pretty good.
It was
Wasn't
good,
great.
but not great.
Yeah,
it's
you're
not.
right.
It's not on the level of this.
I
or
have
You're
Toasted
right.
no
Barrel.
right.
clue what they're talking about.
Yeah, we haven't even posted it yet. We just did a review on Litchfield Distillery, which is
So-
double oaked, and it was good, not great. You're right.
Yeah, we'll,
You're right.
we'll have that one up for you guys here in the
All
next
right.
few days.
All
something
right.
like that.
Give us some feedback. Let us know what we can do better, and we'll see you next week.
Yep. See you guys.
Bye, guys.
Yeah.